It's another Sahel Tuesdays. Welcome. Thank you so much for joining us. Remember to like, share, and subscribe. Thank you very, very much to everybody who is helping us pay the bills and always supporting the show. This is a collaborative effort. I'm not alone on Sahel Tuesdays. I'll start with our elder, Mam Kanyisile Litchfield Shabalala Sabona Koko. Mom, can you hear us?
Thokoza to our listeners.
Thank you. And I'm assuming yes?
Me?
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Greetings, everybody. Greetings, man. Greetings. I'm on a high today, man. I'm buzzing. So greetings, everybody. Welcome to another Sahel Tuesday, man. I'm buzzing. Nice to see you all.
And then I know that I'm going to be disciplining in today's session. We have Nduku joining us today.
I was about to say, pass what you're having, brother.
Oh, yeah.
Pass it over. Hello. My name is Nduku. I am the host of Kumbukeni. Looking forward to this conversation. Glad to be here with my brother and my sisters. I'm always missing out on these conversations, so I'm happy to be here.
Brilliant.
It's such a pleasure. It's always a pleasure to have you here. So
yes,
we're going to go right into it. Burkina Faso was celebrating Thomas Sankara and Mam Kani was there. So finally, we're going to get the feedback session on how Burkina Faso was and what the event was about. And as you know, tonight we are unpacking Mr. Thomas Sankara. So I'll hand over to Mam Kanye, then Oladele, then Duku, and it's a ball. The floor is open. Tama Queen.
I am getting as if my connection keeps breaking. Is that what you're getting?
Yes, there is a bit of you are lagging behind. And if you still struggle with your network, maybe if you log off and log on again.
Yeah, I'm going to do that. I'm going to log off, then log on. And then maybe you can start with either Nduku or Oladele in the meantime.
No problem. Thank you. And in African culture, it's not that we're being patriarchal. The eldest one who got onto the planet is automatically goes into leadership. So Oladele, we're talking Thomas Sankara. What are your thoughts? I know you're always researching, so I know.
Yeah, so what am I going to lead off today? I'm going to lead off with basically what did he leave off? What was his legacy? What did his leadership exemplify? What did he show to us? And what Thomas Sankara did was he led by example. Basically, he lived what he preached. Not like our so-called politicians that we have right now that feed off other people. He led by example. Basically, he didn't take more than he needed. He didn't get a fat wage. Basically, and that's basically what Ibrahim Traore is doing at the moment. He prioritized self-reliance, pushing for economic independence. That's something he did. It's something that all Africa needs at the moment. I'm just going to go through them. He challenged injustice. Okay? We see injustice all over Africa today. This is basically what all African leaders should be doing, challenging injustice. But Thomas Sankara lived for that. He empowered the marginalized. Okay? You look all over Africa. Our people are marginalized wherever we are. In Thomas Sankara's Burkina Faso, he fought against that. Vision requires action. What he also did was back it up with action. Okay, he basically, there was vaccination campaigns in terms of food. He did that. There was empowering the women. Those kind of things he did. And what he also did is he united the people behind him. And this is basically what Ibrahim Traore is doing at the moment. So he did that. And the last one that, okay, there's also integrity. Integrity. Most leaders lack integrity. They say one thing, they double speak, but they're doing something completely different. That's lacked in African leadership at the moment. And this is basically what Thomas Sankara amplified. And the last one that I have there, he inspired the ability to get everybody together. He did that. So these are the things that exemplified Thomas Sankara. These things he did, which the hegemonic powers did not like. Imagine you doing the right thing and people don't like you for doing the right thing. Make it make sense, guys. Anyway, I'll start with that. Mama Kanshila is back.
Mama Kanyisle, before you go, I was about to tell our brother, we don't need to imagine, we are experiencing it.
Yes. Thank you. Thanks, Nduku. Thanks. Nice to have you.
I love you, my brother.
Thank you so much, Oladele. I hope this Wi-Fi doesn't interfere again. I think I attended a pre-launch session, which was on a Friday, because the actual unveiling of the memorial was on Saturday. But that Friday, they had like people who worked with him, friends. One of his brother was there. Some of the people were in security. To just come and talk to him, give us a side about him that we do not know. And I remember that there was one person, a journalist that worked with him, who donated at that time what he called presidential memoirs, something like that. And he bound them together. So he gave one to the university, one to the Sankara Memorial, and I forgot the third one. But those are notes that Sankara wrote. So Sankara virtually called up almost each and every African president at the time to try and explain himself and the revolution and to win them over, sort of like conscientize them. And then he would write a note immediately after, his impressions about the president, what the challenges would be to win them over to the revolution. And he kept that. I found that very interesting and intriguing, because there is a video currently that was sent to me. It's in French. It's about 38 minutes by Moussa Diale. And he was a military magistrate at the time. Sankara was a prime minister, and also when he became president. And his rank is Colonel Major. For people who are from the English-speaking world, they will say, what is that? Those are two different ranks. But the French army used it then for a senior colonel rank, just before Brigadier General, I guess, because he was a magistrate. But Moussa Diallo in this video says the same thing about Sankara, that he was ethical and he did not believe that will succeed alone. So I guess Sankara called up every president because he knew that the Burkinabe revolution would not survive on its own. It needed other African countries because it's easy to be squashed and to be taken out as a single country. Now, Moussa Diale, this Colonel Major, retired magistrate, he confirms that in this video that Sankara really believed in an institution and not in individualism. He believed that imperialism came at us as an institutionalized system and collectively. So we needed an disciplined, institutionalized, and collective response to fight it. But another thing I gathered in that intimate setting that it was Friday, actually, not Thursday, sorry, because the unveiling was Saturday. That Friday at the university, it's just how Sankara loved life. I don't think we don't know that side of him. He loved music, he loved dancing. So he was human. He wasn't all about the revolution and the military. But also that he had a childhood friend whom he had put in a position in finance, and he got the news that he embezzled state funds. And I guess it would be difficult for any other president, to call up a close friend that they put in power. That's how red tape and bureaucracy is happening in our countries. But apparently Sankara called him and said, did you embezzle state funds? And the guy didn't answer, like, did you embezzle state funds? He didn't answer, and was like, did you embezzle state funds? And the guy was like, yeah, but he was like, okay, I was interested in the first part. And he actually did take punitive action against him, put him in jail. So just his level-headedness and his fairness and an approach to life, for me, is what came out of that session. He also started, for those who are my generation, when we grew up in Tsiki, your dad would know there was a cartoon called Jojo. And Jojo was a political satire because Jojo showed, but sometimes it was social and not even political, just the madness of society. So Sankara started it, and this guy, I should have cramped the name of that cartoon. They would show the madness of society. Like, remember, Sankara wanted to move society to communism, which is like the highest ideal of socialism, where resources are provided by the state, but you take what you need. Like, if a shop is open and you are a family of 3, you will not take 5 bottles of water, you will take 3 because you are 3. I mean, that's the highest ideal, that's communism. And because he had that in mind, he was always concerned about the madness of society, the things we do that just show how locked up we are in imperialism and capitalist thinking. So that cartoon would show those things. And people got mad with the cartoon at a certain point because they didn't know that he had commissioned it, because he was showing things that even some of the people who are in Sankara's cabinet or close friends or whatever, the madness of what they were showing. But they didn't know that that cartoonist had his protection. But there's a joke the cartoonist told, he was like, one time I cartooned Sankara himself because there were awards that were given. Don't remember, he said the awards were for what. But there was a woman who had won an award. And it wasn't Sankara, I mean, he was president. He wasn't the one giving the awards. But when it came to that woman, he quickly jumped and wanted to be the one who gives the award to the woman. So the cartoonist was just like, you love women so much, you can't hold your horses. That was unprocedural. So, yeah, I think I like that side of him, because when we think of him as a revolutionary and as a soldier. Like, he wasn't human. He didn't laugh. He didn't laugh. He didn't dance. He wasn't challenged by the decisions he had taken to be ethical. They're challenging. He had a father whom he regarded as his own father, because he was close friend with the son, and I think also with the daughter of that man. And that man was either the chairperson or in the highest Muslim council of Burkina Faso at the time. And Sankara found out that they were in a building for the longest of time where they were not paying rent. And then he didn't confront him. He just went and spoke publicly and was just like, oh, the Muslim council, they're like a vampire. They're eating off of society. And it was such an altercation between him and this man. But Sarah was just like, no, I stand my ground. You should actually, it's more so you should be paying rent because you claim to be religious. So you should be leading by example. And the daughter was actually sharing this story because when Sankara was assassinated, it took such a toll on him, because he also regarded Sankara as a son, that in the end he died from depression, from heartache. So those are the things I gleaned, and I was just like, wow, this is good. So there are more things to share from the video now of this Colonel Major Musa Diallo, but I think I'll pause for now and just allow for the other panelists and for Yunsigi to come back. So predominantly what I shared was from that session.
Nduku, your thoughts?
I'm waiting to be called on. Oh, yes. So Thomas Sankara is someone who, and it's so good to see Traore live in his legacy, like do the things that he was doing, who just makes me happy when I think about him. And when we think about our revolutionaries every now and then, I'm like, I wish I was alive to just talk to him. I wish I could see him right now and just talk to him. He's one of those people. He was big on empowering women. he was really, really big on empowering women. That was a big thing for him in Burkina Faso. He empowered the women of Burkina Faso. You're seeing it now with Traore. Another thing he did, so let's just say Burkina Faso is looking really bad when he takes over. The economy is bad. The illiteracy level is high. Very few people are educated. And he takes on by himself. The first thing he does is he kisses IMF goodbye and tells them, we do not need you, because the evidence shows that this whole time we've had you, you have not built anything for us. And therefore, we do not need you. So that's the first thing he does. Same thing Traore is doing. Goodbye, IMF, we don't need you. You're more of a problem than you are help. And then he takes on the building of his nation with his people, not just by himself, not just putting up elites in different spaces, but with his people. But before he does that, he tells all his ministers, you're going to have to give up your fancy cars. We're going to have to use this car. No more fancy cars. And then no more buying clothes from Europe. You're going to have to wear clothes made in Burkina Faso. If you're in government, you have to wear clothes made in Burkina Faso. So that right there, just that step is going to build the economy, because now you're building the textile industry in Burkina Faso, right? And you're giving people jobs, because now you have tailors, now you have people selling the cloth, now you have people transporting the clothing. It just simple things that go a long way in building our economies, but also in showing that we are going to be sovereign nations who decide for ourselves and don't need anyone else to tell us, especially the Mzungu, to tell us what to do. So he also gets his people to organize to build the railway. They built the railway with their bare hands, all of them together, women, children, men, organized together. So he basically told his people, the building of Burkina Faso was their responsibility, which is true on everything. How good our nation is doing is our responsibility, all of us. And as unfortunate as it is for us Africans to hear this, having horrible presidents in Africa is part of our responsibility. We have played a part in that. So it's time we take responsibility and make sure we take down these horrible leaders. One way or another. And I am going to stand by that one way or another, because the more we continue to use this democracy of the West, the more we continue to use the voting system of the West that is interfered with by the West, the more we're going to keep finding ourselves under their exploitation. So that was something he was very keen on. The other thing that I like about Thomas Sankara is his trip to the United States. He's invited to the UN. He has a speech. And the president of the US tells him they have to see his speech before he gives it at the UN. He says, Fanguo, those of you who speak Italian, he says, see you later. You're not my massa. I'm going to go to Harlem, to Black Africa over here, hang out with my people. I really, really don't need to be in the UN. I really, really don't need you all. I'm going to go hang out with my people. And with a full chest, he goes to Harlem and he says that's Black Africa in the US. So that is powerful. And when this Sunday we had the interview with our brother in South Africa, and he asked me what I thought Ramaphosa would have done. That's what Ramaphosa should have done. What Sankara did is what Ramaphosa should have done. He should have gotten up and told Trump what time it is, and then said, hey, everyone, where is Harlem? Gone there, or Brooklyn, or wherever the Black community is. If he was in DC, there's a Black community there, and talk to whoever is organizing the community and had a speech there. Hang out with his people instead of sitting and being humiliated by white people. Imagine the caucasity where you're telling a leader, they're not invited to the US by the US government. They've been invited to a United Nations, right? And then you're telling them, oh, hold on, Black man. Before you go speak, we want to see what you've written. No. Why? Do you show us your speeches when you come to Africa before you speak? No. So that was another thing that Sankara was very good at. Sankara goes to the OAU, they have a meeting, and he says to them, and this is how, man, these African men who are mostly the leaders, so-called leaders, misleaders, I call them, in Africa, it's just a shame watching them throughout history and the embarrassment. He says to them, if we all unite and stand up, this now is referring to the debt, the so-called debt that Africa owes the West and whoever else. If we all stand up together and say to the West, we're no longer paying a debt. We don't have a debt with you. This, we don't even recognize it anymore. We will make a difference. But if I stand up by myself, next year, I will not be here. And they laugh. They laugh. And that is a year before he's taken out. He was right. He foresaw his killing, his murder, but it didn't stop him. It did not stop him from keeping standing by integrity. It did not stop him from serving his people, no matter what the West thought. So I just, every time I think of Sankara, it brings pleasure to me. And then once he's killed and they go into his records, his house, a bicycle, right? His account doesn't have that much money in it, just like Sankara. I don't need a big mansion and fancy cars if my people are suffering. That mentality where I cannot advance as a leader if my people are suffering, right? And if every leader went by that, we would be so much further ahead. Because first of all, if you're doing that, when the CIA comes to you, you're going to say no. When they come to you, the IMF, and say, okay, you're going to cut the education budget, we're going to put some money in your pockets, and we're going to send your children to Yale and Harvard, they would say no, because they are standing by the people and they are committed to the well-being of the people. So those are the things for me that I remember about Sankara, and I'm happy to see in Traore right now.
Thank you so much. You know, there's these two interesting comments here that I think we need to deal with, because a lot of people are also responding to them. One, Sonini says, we need to profile the likes of Blaise Compaoré because they seem to live longer as opposed to those with good intentions. And then the second one was, how do people like Compaoré, Ramaphosa, Ruto, Tinubu, etc. sleep at night? So, you know, when you were speaking about Sankara, you're speaking about how ethical he is, but then what is the cost of being ethical? I'll pass the mic.
The cost of being ethical is for you to do the right thing. In the world we live in today, guys, doing the right thing is basically it's not common anymore. In our daily lives and everything we do, doing the right thing is most of us are compromised in the system. The capitalist system compromises you. It doesn't matter where you are. Well, if you believe in capitalism, you're compromised one way or the other. So the leaders that you see that, you know, I don't know how they sleep at night because they are puppets. Basically, before African leaders get into power, they normally, like, I don't know if you noticed about Tinubu, they had to go to Chatham House. They had to go to Chatham House. They had to go speak to these guys. They had to see what, I don't know why they go there, because they're Africans, they're Nigerians, they're African. Why do you go to Chatham House? So these guys are vetted before they get there. So, and don't forget, African politics, the Caucasians don't play to lose. They back all the horses. In Nigerians' instance, they had Peter Obi, they had Atiku, and they had Tinubu. So either way, either one of them is going to do their bidding. So, but the thing is, like, have they got a conscience? These people, even in politics is dirty. Politics is dirty. Not like what Thomas Sankara is doing, not like Thomas Sankara did, not like what Ibrahim Traore is doing. It's dirty, it's a dirty business. And this is why I hate politics. So for you to be a politician, in the true sense, based on, if you look at what happened in America and the UK, there's basically no clean politician. You have your hands sold one way or the other. Through your lobbying, through whatever you do, you compromise. This is basically why I say we need something different. How they sleep, I don't know, because for me, I feel they have no souls because they sold their souls out. They basically sold their souls, because for you to do the right thing, you look at people around you. I've just visited Nigeria recently, and whenever I'm in Nigeria, I see poverty. I see people suffering. I see nothing available for people. It makes me think, okay, have we got politicians? Have they got us? Have they got us soul? And I don't think they have, because I just saw a video just about a couple of hours ago. There was a Tinubu's motto, whatever they call, the entourage, and there was about 20 cars in one full line, just because one person is going somewhere. Compared to Thomas Sankara, who had a bicycle, who had one car. So the people who I'll say these politicians in power are basically, like you see, I think they're sold out. They're they're there for what they're gonna get. I don't think they're in politics for the interest of the people, because if they are, Africa will be a different place.
Mam Kanye?
Thank you. I just wanted to complete what my sister Nduku spoke about in regard of Sankara appreciating African women, understanding their role in society. Can we put it plain and simple? He is to date the only Pan-African leader of the males. A book on African women. And I think I implore everyone listening, if you don't have a copy of this book, please get it. The name of the book is Women's Liberation and the African Freedom Struggle. There's a quotation my daughter loves to me. Sankara says, "There is no true social revolution without the liberation of women." I like what follows. "May my eyes never see and my feet never take me to a society where half the people are held in silence. I hear the roar of women's silence. I sense the rumble of their storm and feel the fury of their revolt." He understood the anger of the African women. I'm not sure I can say that, and I mean, it's bad to compare, but sometimes it's good to compare to bring the message home. I don't know if I can say that with most of the leaders that we call Pan-African. I'm not sure if the women's struggle for them was
We lost her.
I'm sure she'll be back. Nduku?
Yeah. So let me make a correction. He did not go to the UN, right? He was denied a visit to the White House. So the condition was, if he was to go to the White House, he had to show his speech. And he went to the UN and gave a speech. I'm going to share it in the chat in a little bit. A great speech. The cost of being ethical, you lose friends. That's one of the costs of being ethical. You lose friends. You will lose friends and family because not many people want to stand by what's right, because standing by what's right is costly today. It's been costly for a while. So you will lose friends. It's a very lonely road to be ethical. It's a very lonely road to have integrity. And until you meet others who are far and few between, who are as ethical and as having integrity as you, it will be lonely. It is full of disappointments. The path of being ethical is full of disappointments. You will meet especially Africans like you who will tell you they stand by you and turn around and stab you and put a really sharp knife in your back. And you will have to turn around, take it out, and continue the journey. But that is so the importance of us talking about it is not just to pontificate, right? The importance of us talking about the challenges, the costs of being ethical is for you, if you choose to be ethical, to prepare yourself for what lies ahead so that you don't go in blindly. But to understand that we must all be ethical if we're going to at least, because perfection, you can't be completely ethical. None of us is perfect, right? All of us have flaws, but at least to always be grounded in the well-being of your people and to know that when something is going to risk the well-being of your people, it is a no, a definite no to it, right? So you're going to lose friends, you're going to have disappointments, but you can't give up. You have to get up no matter what. You're going to be judged. You will be judged. You will be called all kinds of names. I've been called a dictator. I've been called all kinds of names by people who look like me, by people who had told me they were revolutionaries. And I say, maybe we do need a dictator. How about that? Maybe we need a dictator who stands for the well-being of our people, who tells you all what to do. You all have cognitive dissonance, and you're not moving accordingly. The evidence is in our continent falling apart. The evidence is in Bill Gates going to Addis Ababa, to the headquarters of the AU, talking about he's going to leave his money to Africa. Of course, you're going to leave your money to Africa because you believe in a God and you want to go to heaven to pay for all the evil you've done. So, of course, you're going to leave your money to Africa. And guess what, Bill Gates? We're not thanking you. You owe that money to Africa. That is money you took from Africa. It's not your money. So that's the cost. The other cost is death. We're talking about Thomas Sankara, who was murdered. And the person who betrayed him was a childhood friend, his best friend, someone who his family, Thomas Sankara's family, had taken Compaore and adopted him and cared for him and nurtured him and fed him and sheltered him. But the selfishness, the self-centeredness was so strong that he forgot all that had been done for him. And this happens, right? Again, when I was saying disappointment, and one of his generals says to him what Compaore is planning. And Sankara says, let him be, let him be. If that was me, no, so now that's a lesson that is learned from Sankara. That is one thing I always say to Sankara when I talk to Sankara. You should have killed that person. Immediately you find out, I forget I'm on Moya. My sister, forgive me. You should have made that person not see the next day. You should have made sure that person did not wake up the next day. Listen, this is how we have to move. If you are Ibrahim Traore, and someone comes to you and says, these and these people, and we have evidence, like strong evidence, are planning your death, let them meet their maker immediately. Because you are there for the people. It's not about you being selfish. It's about, again, being grounded on the well-being of your people. If I'm taken out and I am a rare president who stands by the well-being of our people, my people will suffer. If I'm taken out, this selfish individual who's planning me being taken out is going to take over, my people will suffer. So for the sake of my people, goodbye and say hello to your maker, right? That's what he should have done. So the cost of being ethical is heavy. It is not an easy journey. We shouldn't expect it to be easy, given the things that we are fighting, but it is needed by all of us, if not most of us. It is needed.
So what I think Mam Kanye was trying to get to the point of was the fact that Thomas Sankara was a feminist. So can we now touch on that, because we can see that a lot of the African politics are male driven. So why would it be important for women to be empowered in societies?
You're muted, sis.
I'm saying I'm sorry I disconnected and had to find another way to connect. I hope we don't get cut off again. Yes, I think it's crucial for me that Sankara was a gender activist, a feminist. I even like the part where he knows that even if we are even denied the platform to rebel, he says he can sense the silence of our fury, the anger that's boiling within us. It's crucial, I think, for me, because most early Pan-Africanists did not go back to our pre-colonial history to say is part. His feet never take him to a society where half the population is held in silence. And I think for someone to make that bold stand in a country that is predominant, for me, that's why he really was lonely in the end, what Ntoko was saying. And for me, that's even shown by the video that this Colonel Major, who was a magistrate in the military during Sankara's time, has released Musa Diallo. He says that between 1982 and 83, in the coup of Jean Baptista Ouedraogo, who was the president. Sankara was made the prime minister. They call them first minister in Burkina Faso. But a lot of people in Jean-Baptiste Ouedraogo's government didn't want Sankara because he was too radical for them. Now, he explains something there. The generation of Jean-Baptiste Ouedraogo was the generation that was trained outside of Burkina Faso in terms of military training in France. And they then trained the generation of Sankara and the rest. And this generation of Sankara and his colleagues was very radical, I think, because they lived and saw the reality of Burkina Faso. So a lot of the people in Jean-Baptiste's government did not want Sankara as the prime minister, to an extent where they came up with a plot and approached a psychiatrist to declare him to be psychologically incompetent, like mad in a way. Fortunately, the psychologist said, no, I can't do that. It's unethical. It's against my ethics. And then they came with a plot of assassination. So even before he became president, he knew that he was not liked. There was already an assassination attempt on his life. He still goes to become president and still comes up with all these radical changes in society that he knew for sure he was unliked for. So I think for me, beyond ethics, it just shows a man who was married to the struggle and to the liberation of African people. And I think right from there, we can juxtapose and say, where are such leaders today? We see them still in Burkina Faso, Niger, and Mali. And I think Botswana is joining, but I'm still waiting to see. For me, until Botswana shuts down that American military base, I'm not taking them serious. And I don't think Traore should go there when that base is still operating. Anyway, it's dangerous for him. If I was him, I wouldn't go. I would actually ask them to shut it down first, expel them, and then I see how serious you are. So, yeah, I think that's the part I was going to share before I was cut off. And you then asked the question, I think it was asked by people, how does Ruto, Ramaphosa, etc., go to bed at night? Well, they go to bed with a straight face. There are two types of African leaders: those who have a conscience and those who do not have a conscience. And if you do not have a conscience, it doesn't matter the atrocities you commit against your people, you will still go back to bed at night with a clear conscience. I mean, these leaders we have, Ntsiki, can drive the latest Mercedes Benz, the latest whatever car into a squatter camp, get out of it in a clean suit, and ask those people to vote for their party. I mean, I think I wrap it there. If you can do that, what else can you not do against poor people? What else can? I mean, where's the shame? So yeah, no, they sleep well at night because their consciences died long ago. And then for the people who said, let's profile Blaise Kambori, I'm not sure we have the time to look at Blaise's life. Blaise is a dog and a pig, and history has buried him with the dogs and the pigs by the unveiling of Sankara Memorial. So why are we giving him airtime, dedicate a whole episode of Sahel Thursdays to look at his life? It's a pitiful life. I mean, it's a life of a sellout. Why do we want to profile it? I think there's more important people to profile. But yeah, I understand where the person is coming from. But hey, do we really want to do that? Time is limited. We need to be educating our people. So yeah, I'll leave it there.
Yeah, Insiki, I'm gonna bring you back in. Actually, we need you to tell us about the mausoleum, Thomas Sankara, the way you went, the events itself. Please talk about that.
Hold on though, quickly on the women. Before we talk about that, so the use of the word feminism, right, because of what it represents, is something that we need to move away from. And language came up a lot when we were having our conversation on Sunday. So feminism, first of all, feminism is a Western idea. And if you watch the history of feminism, it's very white female concentrated, to the point where the white females who are pushing for feminism We're not even honoring the Black women who were very much involved and were contributing a big chunk of the movement, right? So I really don't care about feminism if you're white women and you're not respecting us. I'm jumping ship and we're going to call it something else. Feminism is also about having equal rights with men. No, that's not what we want. We want equity, right? We want equity. We're not looking for equal rights with men. That doesn't mean our rights are denied. It just means we can't expect to be treated the same way as men. We're not the same. We are not the same, but we should be given the same respect. We should be given okay, I'll give a very, it seems crass, but it's not crass, because sometimes you need these examples for people to understand. Oladele does not need pads and tampons. He doesn't. So why would we worry about how Oladele is being treated as far as that goes? We need tampons and pads, right? I'm talking about the menstrual cycle. And therefore, we are very interested in the policies that are put in place as far as women's menstrual cycle, so that our needs for that are met. So that's equity. Equity is having your needs met, like you're getting resources based on your needs. That's what we need to seek. But also, we need to have a name that's African, that shows that we have respect for our women and that we honor them. And this is much bigger than just feminism, equal rights. This is knowing that your woman is the one who brings life. Your woman is the one who nurtures life. Without her, you cannot exist. So it just looks very different when that's the mindset. Not, I need to be in the office making money like you are, or I need to wear pants like you are. Like that it really diminishes what we're talking about as far as women being honored. And that's what the Western feminism is all about. So we as Africans, and Sankara was very big on this. He was not so much feminism. He just knew that his women, the women in Burkina Faso, their needs were not being met, and he ensured that they were. One big one being education, so that they would be literate and so that they could play a part in society. So yeah, that use of that word, we need to talk about it one of these days, Mama Kanyisile and Tsiki. And my brother too.
Yeah, thanks. Thank you, Ndugu, for jumping in there. In Africa, the conversation has started actually because there are two big feminist NGOs in Africa. One is called Akina Mama or Africa, and then you also have Femnet. They've started the conversation, so they actually call it Afrofeminism. But me, in my book, I've actually called it Afrogender, because even much bigger than all the things you've counted, Nsigi, to fight for women's rights in a Pan-African or Afrocentric perspective means understanding the pre-colonial gender construct. That patriarchy is not African. So you are not fighting for equality, you are actually fighting for the total liberation of African culture from colonialism. Because when Europe colonized Africa and the Arabs colonized us, they also colonized the culture, which is how you then find patriarchy now as an element reigning in our cultures. So when we totally decolonize and we liberate our culture, we restore the pre-colonial Afro-gender construct or Afro-feminist construct, where there were no gender power relations. Underline that word power. They were simply gender relations. So yes, thank you for jumping in.
Do you want to talk about the event at the mausoleum? The event, can you go through that? Talk us through what happened as you were there, please.
Oh, thank you. So, Sankara was not shot alone. He was shot with 12 of his comrades. And they had never really been given the rest that they deserve in terms of being buried on the soil of the land that they died for. So inside the mausoleum is his tomb, along with the tombs of the other 12. They are lying side by side. It's like walking into a graveyard, but it's a secular arrangement, and you have these tombs, each with a history. And I think for me, the historical symbolic nature of that is how Blaise Compaoré never wanted a grave of Sankara, or a grave of his comrades, the 12 comrades, to be pointed at, because he immediately knew that would be a shrine, but that would also be a place of victory, because yes, you've killed them, but if people can go there and still keep their spirits up, it means you've lost. So he never wanted that. So I think Captain Traore's done well. He's a major, by the way, also. He's no longer a captain, but that's why he took off the military ranks, because we all know him as captain, so he's keeping that endearment, but he was promoted to major. Yeah, Captain Traore, I think, did well by unveiling that mausoleum. And that was the first stage was the memorial with Sankara, with his feast that he was known for, towering statue. Now it was the mausoleum, and you have the second phase of it is there is a wish to open a Pan-African school where African youth would come together to learn Pan-Africanism and Afrocentrism, whether it's ongoing programs that are accredited, or you have winter and summer programs where Africans who are Pan-African like you, Ndugu, could go and teach, like you, Oladele, Wenzigi, media that is progressive and Pan-African, like Moya, you would go there, to profile some of the programs. So like a come together really in Sankara's real wish of institutionalized coming together to fight imperialism. So that's the third stage. It's almost like a town of its own, because you have a conference hall, places to sleep, a library of his there. And that's where Burkina Faso is like, anyone who is interested in being involved in that project, whether you're in the diaspora or in Africa, let's come together. Also, they are raising funds for that third phase, because if you see it, they played the video at the unveiling. That's why I say it's almost like a town of its own, a Thomas Sankara town, which is good because it will be a Pan-African academic and cultural town where as Africans we come together. Yeah. Hope I've answered you, Oladele.
Says, I'm just gonna jump in there before you guys go. I've got the names, I've just posted them. I'm gonna read out the names of these people, because sometimes it's good for us to let people know who they are. So like Mama Kanye said, there's 12 of them. The first one is Pauline Bamuni. It was a civilian member of Sankara's special cabinet. And we have then Bonaventure Compaoré, a civilian member of the special cabinet. And then we had Frederick Kaganoga Kimede, a civilian member of the special cabinet. Patrice Zagre, also a member of his cabinet. Christophe Saba, he was a warrant officer and soldier. Pantenema Sore, a soldier, a member of the Presidential Guard. Walilaye Udrago, a soldier, a member of the Presidential Guard. Emmanuel Baziono, a soldier, a member of the Guard. Amade Sawadogo, a member of the Guard. Abdullahi Guim, member of the Guard. De Sumda, a soldier, a member of the Presidential Guard. And the last person that is Nufu Sawadogo, was a police officer who was passing by at the time of the attack. So those are the 12 people that died. They didn't have to, but when the enemy strikes, there's always collateral. But saying that, guys, for an upright leader to exist, I think we said this in the past, we the people need to protect. When we have a good thing, we need to protect them. We cannot not protect our good leaders. 51 African leaders that we have today right now are compromised. I say this unapologetically. When the West praises your leaders, 51 of them, they're not good. They're not good for you. They're not serving you. At the moment, categorically, we can say we have 3 African leaders who are doing the bidding of the people, as Niger, Mali, and Burkina Faso. So far, at the moment, those are the 3, and they are not democratic. Don't forget, democracy is a fallacy. Like Nduku said, we need something that's going to work, and we Africans need to develop our own system. We don't have to copy anything Eurocentric at all. We are Africans, and I say this, I say again, our Kevalan, mother of mankind, we existed before any other. So why don't we dictate our own trajectory? What do we do for ourselves? Why do we have to look east or west when we can do for ourselves? It's about time we Africans create our own solutions. Afrocentrism, even the word Pan-Africanism has been overused. Let's talk Afrocentric solutions. And I'll leave it there for now.
Thank you. I don't know if you've got the details on how Thomas Sankara was unalived, Mamkani, or anybody. The details surrounding what happened that day, what actually happened. That would be awesome. And then Nduku, we're missing your voice.
Yes.
So after standing. Okay, great.
Did you want to do that first, or you want me to give my take on what was it that we were answering just now? Sorry.
We were actually answering, you had answered it. We were talking about the importance of women. And then you spoke about how feminism is quite a dodgy word. Mm-hmm. And I totally agree with you.
I think Oladele had asked about the mausoleum. Yes. So the one thing that caught me before Mama Kanyisile goes ahead, and I'm almost certain she knows how he was killed, but if she doesn't, then I'll step in, but I doubt she doesn't. Anyway, so I remember a picture Mama Kanyisile sent me, and Mama Kanyisile, remind me who the third person is, because I don't remember his name. I know his face, but I was trying to remember his name. I can't remember. In his office, he had a picture of Che Guevara, Nkrumah, and the other person. I forget.
Mozambique president.
Mozambique president. Yes, thank you. And I was even forgetting the country. Yes. So I will get the name and tell you. But that's what was on his wall, so that you understand what a Pan-African he was. But Che Guevara too.
Samora
right?
Machel.
Yes. Samora Machel. That those 3 people were on his wall. So that by itself signifies Machel. That by itself signifies, I'm going to put the names in the chat so that you can see them. That signifies his Pan-African being. That signifies that he's not a leader like the ones we have, misleader, who wants to stand out and not hold others up. That he's okay being who he is when Che Guevara, Nkrumah, Samora Machel are on the wall. He does not feel like they'll take away from his. You know, these presidents nowadays, when they get office, they demand that all other pictures be taken down and theirs goes up, right? That's what they do, because it makes them feel small when they see others, because they cannot live up to those others who are there. So because he could live up to Sankara, to Che Guevara's legacy, because he could live up to Nkrumah's legacy, because he could live up to Machel's legacy, and also because he wanted them to hold him accountable, seeing them every day, remembering what they went through to hold him accountable. He had them there. He did not feel like they reduced who he was. So for me, that mausoleum, that's one of the things. The other thing is the architecture who worked on the mausoleum. He's a Burkina Faso man, Francis Kere, is who worked on that mausoleum. When you talk about a leader is intentional. He did not go to get China to build it. He did not go to get Russia. Those of you who want to criticize Traore because he's using Russia and China to be strategic, because they have the tools that he needs to fight the West, will tell you this. The person who built that mausoleum is a Burkina Faso architecture, Francis Kere. So that shows you he is proud of his people. He understands his people are skillful, and it is a beautiful mausoleum. So those were the 2 things when I think about it that I think we should all take note, that when you walk in there, that has been designed and put together by a Black man and by Black people. Because Francis Kere is very intentional about who builds when he does the buildings in Burkina Faso. It is the people, not white people, not Chinese people, not Arab people, the people of Burkina Faso.
Mam Kanye?
Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you, my sister Nduku. Nsiki, that's why I say Blaise Compaoré belongs with the pigs and the dogs, because that's where he tried to put Sankara. Sankara was shot in broad daylight, truly like a dog. And he was in office, the same office that had only office. It could have been the office of a truly, not of a president. He wasn't opulent. He was having a meeting, and he knew that that day was coming. By the way, he knew in 1982, when he was prime minister in Jean Baptiste Ouedraogo's government, the same Jean Baptiste Ouedraogo that he could in 83, to the time when he was shot 3-4 years later. He always knew, but he also understood, and someone posted it in the group before, and I think we should highlight it. He knew that he would be the seed that needs to die in the ground for it to produce fruit. He almost reminds me of Solomon Mahlangu. It's just that, sadly, Solomon Mahlangu dies for an ANC legacy that has taken us nowhere and that has sold us out. But his death cannot remain unappreciated. Where he goes to the gallows, who is being sentenced to death, a youth, and he says, "My blood shall nourish the tree that will bear the fruits of freedom." It is the same thing Sankara understood, that his fear of death and his trying to escape death is not going to produce and multiply Sankara seeds. So he almost like agreed to be a sacrificial lamb, um, so that the legacy of the revolution does not die. And we can see it being reawakened in Niger, in Mali, in Burkina Faso today. Botswana is trying to come on board. Senegal is trying to come on board. I think what I want to talk about regarding his death is how sad it is that in Southern Africa, it's Botswana that's trying, a country that we have always criticized and said, oh, they were given independence. The ones that were guerrilla movements actually were even Sankarists before. Namibia, South Africa, Zimbabwe. Where are we? Why aren't we upholding the Sankara legacy? Why aren't we embracing the 3 Sahel countries? It shows for me, honestly, that we cannot continue taking our government seriously. They are cowards, they are bought, they are not in the service of a revolution. Because we are all in agreement, the ANC included, SWAPO included in Namibia, ZANU-PF included in Zimbabwe. Nobody's denying. Mnangagwa doesn't deny, Cyril doesn't deny. We are all in agreement that we are in neoliberal socio-economic system. We all agree that we are in neo-colonial system. Now, if we all agree and we know this is true, why aren't we fast-tracking our people to get on the other side? Like the 3 IS countries are doing, Association of Sahel Countries. In French, they say IS, AES. Why aren't we doing it? For me, it just shows that, yes, while he became the sacrificial lamb, the seed that died on the ground, for fruit to spring out, there is some ground like South Africa, Namibia, Zimbabwe, and the rest. Oladile talked about it also. That still needs more watering for that seed to spring out. But we are happy that it is not all lost. At least we are seeing it, as Ndugu likes to say, in the 3 Sahel countries. And as I said, Botswana and Senegal are trying to come on board. They need to clean up their houses more, though, for us to really believe that they are on board. Thanks, Nsiki.
Nsuki, I'm going to add a couple of things to that, to what Mama Kanyisile was saying, as far as how Thomas Sankara was murdered. So, or at least the time of his murder, right? He does know that they're coming for him, and they hear them outside, and he tells his colleagues, it is me they've come for, and he steps outside. To save their lives, he steps outside of the office. Like, this is how selfless this man is. To save his people's lives, he steps outside the office. It's unfortunate he didn't know that Compaore was there to destroy everyone, him and everyone who worked alongside him. The other thing too that Compaore and his fellow criminals did was they buried him in a very disrespectful way in our African culture. He was given a shallow grave. Like, that's what they did. They didn't make sure that he was buried in a nice way. He was given an unmarked shallow grave. And therefore, recently, he was given an honorable burial by his people in Burkina Faso. But those are the two things also that we need to remember about them. Because the same thing is happening with Dedan Kimathi, right? The imperialists, those who work for them, they have a way of diminishing who we are as Black people, even after our death, right? You remember with the lynchings, they cut their private parts, they cut parts of them, they go hang. It's like white people are just so insanely psychopathic. Like, you've killed me already, what are you doing? You know, but they want to shame us even after we are dead. And that's something that we have to know our enemy, because it is in understanding our enemy that we're going to be able to strategize how to defeat them and how to deal with them. So yes, those two things. He stepped out and let his people stay in with the hope of saving them and him being taken, because it's him they were coming for. And then Compaore and his fellow criminals did not give him an honorable burial, even after everything. Like, yo.
I think sorry to come in. Sorry, just a quick one. Another important thing is he had actually spoken about Blaise Compaore leading up to that shooting in multiple platforms, urging Burkinabe people not to be dragged into, he didn't say that, I'm saying it, into the dog mentality of Blaise Compaore. He was like, if that's how he is, he's been bought over and he's become the enemy. We are not going to treat him as an enemy. Like, we are not going to buy into his mentality. That's Thomas Sankara. You know, another leader could have taken Blaise Compaore out before Blaise Compaore took Sankara out. Sankara already knew Blaise Compaore was bought over. He already knew when Blaise Compaore married, I must actually remember, Oladele, who's the dictator of Cote d'Ivoire, who gave his cousin to Sankara to marry, because the French were behind the plot. They wanted the enemy to be within the household. Who's the Cote d'Ivoire dictator? I'll remember his name. When he gave his cousin to Blaise Compaore to marry, which is why Blaise Compaore is still hiding in Ivory Coast even now, Sankara said it even then, that, oh, now the enemy is within our fold, because he knew that was a marriage of convenience, a marriage aimed at data collection and spying on what Burkina Faso was doing. So he knew, and what I want to highlight is, if he was a different president who did not mind spilling the blood of his own people, he could have secretly murdered. He could have gotten Blaise Compaore murdered long before Blaise Compaore actually murdered him. But he was just like, if that's what's going to be the end of it, I'll be the seed, you know, that goes into the ground to spring up again. I think that's very important to highlight. Not leaders who don't care if 34 miners are shot at the back, you know, struggling for 12,500 rands.
So, you know, we've really captured the essence of the man. What I'd really love is that there are some young viewers out there who don't actually know who Blaise Compaore is and what the relationship is and why everybody's so pissed off at him. So please, can you kind of tell the story of the demise of Sankara and who created his demise and how, so that it's like a story?
Who wants to go? The ladies in the floor, Mama Kanshile.
Mama Kanyi, can we say, Mama Kanyi, can we say there was a demise? Is Mama Kanyi
sorry, Nduku, I didn't hear you. Go again.
Can we say there was a demise? Because there was a demise is like for me a complete destruction of the person's legacy. But the people of Burkina Faso continued to hold him up even after Compaore did what he did? What continue? What do you like? Speak to that as you answer, please, because I'm not certain.
Thank you. Yeah, no. There's never been a demise of Sankara's legacy. What Blaise did, which is why the 12 people were shot along with him, is after that, the Blaise Compaore regime went against anyone who was a silence. People were thrown in jail.
So
And
wait,
he really did.
Mam Kanye, you're a little bit ahead again.
Yeah.
Please, can we speak to
Hello.
them like they?
Can you get?
Oh, sorry. Dizzy, can we speak to the audience like they're not familiar with anything? So the fact that Blaise and Thomas Sankara were friends initially, and then what happened in the politics, and then this happened, and a story.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Nsigi. I guess it's a familiar African story. Patrice Lumumba is the one who identified Mobutu Sese Seko and put him in charge of the military, the same military Mobutu Sese Seko used in collaboration with the French Secret Service, the CIA, and whoever collaborated in the West to kill Patrice Lumumba like a dog because they didn't want a revolution. It's the same story with Blaise Compaore and Sankara. We know from Blaise's rule after killing Sankara that he wasn't interested in decolonizing. He wasn't interested in the Afro gender concept of empowering African women and squashing patriotism. We know from his rule after killing Thomas Sankara that he was not interested in throwing the French out, in taking over the mineral resources of Burkina Faso. He was not interested, in a nutshell, in detaching from the matrix in the language of the Gen Zs. He wanted to uphold the status quo as long as, like a typical African leader, he was secure and he was okay. He and his family were secure and okay. And a few of his leaders who were there to keep him in power. So that was not Sankara's idea. And remember that the French Secret Service, the CIA, the MI6 of Britain, Mossad, sometimes the Israeli Secret Service, they are at work in Africa, people. That's why I hate the foreign military bases so much, because a large part of what they do is data collection and listening in on conversations and identifying who the enemy is. And they identify who the enemy is according who is anti-neoliberalism, who is Afrocentric, who is for decolonization. So they quickly identified in Blaise Compaore, even if he was a friend to Sankara first, that this was our fall guy. This is a person whom we can buy against Thomas Sankara, whom we can convince that Sankara is too radical. He wants things to change too quickly. He doesn't believe that Burkina Faso cannot survive without the French. So they were looking for a fall guy, which is the same fall guy they found in Mobutu Sese Seko, and which is how they then came in between the two of them. And Nsegi, I want to be like Ndugu on this and say, can we pause and unpack? People always say, why is it that it is only with Africans where a progressive leader is always murdered by another African, where they're always able to find a willing agent? It happens like that even with white society, guys. There's a lot of white people who were anti-slavery. And for white people at the time, those white people were sellouts. There's a lot of white people who were anti-colonial. And for white society at the time, those people were sellouts to the white society. There are white people who were anti-apartheid. They were not in favor of apartheid. That's why the white people at the time even called them Kafur Buddhists, because they said, oh, you love Africans so much, and you are a Kefa brother. So you will find it is normal. That's what I want to emphasize. The Zulu saying is abantu abangemanzi abayinganhlanye. People are not water. They don't always flow in the same direction at the same time, unlike water. So you will always find a willing agent, and that's what they found in Blaise Compaore. They knew that they could turn his mind. It's the same thing they did with Steve Biko. They knew they could not turn his mind, therefore they killed him. Well, they didn't hire anyone at the time, they did it themselves. But yeah, Sankara was not liked. And they knew that. Remember, I talked about it, and it came from the video of this Colonel Major Musa Diallo. That there was an element in the military that was trained externally by the French. And there was an element of Sankara going down that trained inside Burkina Faso. Their politics obviously were not the same. So you still had that element in the army. Obviously, that would have been pro-French. And that's the element that played to the gala with Blaise Compaoré, and agreed to the assassination of Sankara. And yeah, afterwards, he followed with a serious clampdown on anything Sankarist. He actually even moved the office, because where the memorial is unveiled is exactly where Sankara was shot, because that's where his office is. That's why when you first see the tower of his statue, go through the mausoleum, and then you go at the back into the office that he used, the spot where he was shot. Blaise removed parliament to an hour away from Ouagadougou. That shows you how much scared he was of the people. He knew that the people of Burkina Faso were not in favor. So he moved an hour away to be safe, so that the secret agencies of the West can visit him in peace and not at night. So I hope it paints the story.
Is it like if things had turned out differently, obviously, but was it like Julius Malema and Floyd Chivambo, that friendship, and then white people come between them, and then Floyd turns on Julius? Was it like that, or how is it?
I will allow, because I saw Ndugu shake his head, and Oladele also, they are saying no. I also say no, it was never like that. Blaise, that's why I'm saying they recognize in him a fall guy. The ideals of Blaise Compaoré were never as radical. Remember, Sankara's ideals are radical even when he was prime minister, before he becomes president. So everybody already knew when he becomes president, this is what he was going to do. And Sankara comes and coups Jean Baptiste Ouedraogo, to whom he was prime minister, under whom, although it is said he didn't know at the time, but when he came to know, he didn't oppose it, under whom they almost wanted to get a psychiatric report and turn him mad, or they tried to kill him. So by the time he becomes president, he already knew who the enemies are. I mean, places in the picture even at that time. So the system already knows how he thinks. And they already know, while you are close to this guy, you don't really agree with the ideals that he is propagating. So we can find a new president. You can be the new Kuwa, so that we stay in power with you. No, it was not the same as Malema and Floyd.
Oh, are we losing Mama?
Duku, I think you wanted to say something, Duku.
Yeah, so what I was going to say is how it wasn't the same. These were childhood friends. Like I said before, Thomas Sankara's family adopted Compaoré and raised him, provided him a home and fed him and took care of him, took him to school and all that. So very, very different, where you would be in the streets and maybe not even alive if not for Sankara's family. So that betrayal is even bigger and deeper than people who've met as friends in their adult age, which is how I think Malema and what's his name again, relationship is. Sankara and Compaoré kind of grew up in the same home, and Sankara's family adopted Compaoré and took care of him. So that one was an even bigger betrayal. And then Sankara hires Compaoré in his government, right? And Sankara preserves Compaoré's life because he's being told that this man is planning your death. And because of how loyal, and because he was a friend, and because he was like a brother to him, he did not take his life. So very, very, very different. Again, going to show the selflessness. But when I say now, this is where I criticize Sankara, and it's okay for those of you who are going to be like, what do you mean you criticize Sankara? It is okay to honor our elders, our ancestors, and to also criticize the things that they do that could cause us harm. And that's one of the things. He should have immediately eliminated Compaore when he found out Compaore was a risk to the well-being of the Burkina people.
Cool. Undiku, what he did, what I see is the fact that he's a brother. How can a brother do that to me? I think he held on to that for so long. Obviously, it became his undoing. And this is loyalty to a T, which is basically his undoing, unfortunately, in the end. Yeah. I think there was a question there, guys. Somebody was talking about, before we go, just to answer that.
Someone asked
views on African countries that seem to be mineral rich, but seem to be at war consistently. What's our views on that?
Before that, someone also asked, can someone update on Mali and Niger? They put the flags up. Because we keep talking about the Sahel region, but we don't talk much about Mali and Niger. So they are working together with Burkina. They have an alliance, the Alliance of the Sahel states. They are moving together economically. They are moving. They all got out of ECOWAS. They are all working with Russia because Russia is the strategic partner right now that they can align with to fight imperialism and to fight the West. And then they are moving in a Pan-African way, all of them, right? So, but the one thing that all of them, and especially Mali, are finding challenging is the whole terrorism thing. But for those of you who followed myself, Moya, the Imagine Al-Kebulan, and have heard Mama Kanyisile speak, the terrorism in Africa, here's one thing you should ask yourself. Why has terrorism increased in Africa since AFRICOM was put in place? Why has terrorism, because I'm not even going to give you my opinion, but just ask yourself and then go find the answers. Why has terrorism increased in Africa since AFRICOM was put in place? And especially because we were told AFRICOM was put in place to fight terrorism. You all talk about how great the American military is. So if the American military is training and helping African nations fight terrorism, why is terrorism increasing? We should at least see a decrease. Even if it's not completely eradicated, we should at least see a decrease. So then once you see that it is increasing despite them being there and despite them coming there to get rid of it, there's something wrong there. There's something wrong. And who is playing a part in this something wrong, right? Who are the parties involved in AFRICOM? What do they really want? Who is sponsoring AFRICOM? How do they go about the training of people with AFRICOM? This is something that Traore is doing as we speak of Sankara, right? And Traore living in his legacy. Traore has brought Russia, but Russian generals are not leading his military. His military is led by Burkinabe generals. Unlike the Kenya, Somalia, no, Somalia is unfortunately the victim of Kenya and Tanzania and all that aligning with AFRICOM. Those are led by US generals. Those partnerships are led by US generals. I know that intimately. So it's not like I'm speculating. So that's the big difference. If you bring Russia, if you bring a strategic alliance because you know, okay, we do not have the weapons we need. We do not have the training we need, but we have an enemy we need to fight right now. So who do we know globally who has these tools that is also an enemy of the enemy that we are facing? Bring them in, but don't bring them in to lead your military. No, bring them in to learn for them, but still have your own people leading the military. So that's what is going on. So they are working together economically. They are working together with the military. They have one military. They're building, at least their military is working together and training together and doing practices together. So they're moving as the Pan-African movement that we've all wanted, right? A united Africa. But they're all facing this terrorism issue, which is funded by France. It's funded by the CIA. It's funded by the US. All of you can read so that you don't come accusing me. I don't need to say allegedly, because a white man who used to work for these nations, John Perkins, has given confessions that put all this out, what they do, right? What's his name? Several books by white people. Since you all like to hear the Mzungu tell you what to do, go see what they tell you to do.
I'm gonna wrap up, guys. Just to back up Nduku on, and I'm gonna wrap up with this. AFRICOM started its operations in 2007. They started in 2007. Is this a coincidence? The terrorist attacks in Africa was about that same time. Yeah, I just I did a post recently where Langley basically said that before they started or before they came in, the terrorist attack was 2%. 2%. The moment they came into it and they're trying to help, it went on to 43%. Is that a coincidence? I'll leave it as that. Make your mind up.
There is something I just remembered. Fellow Africans, I would have kicked myself if I actually didn't remember it. So the same guy whom Sankara looked up to as his own father, because I mean he was close to his kids, just before Sankara, I think 2 or 3 days before Sankara was assassinated, or even 2 days before, he actually called him up, a Muslim guy. He's in the Muslim Council, high up, calls him and says, I sense you're gonna die, so I think you need to go to your village, ask your people to perform whatever they need to perform on you, wash you, whatever. Just disappear, go to your village, ask them to perform rituals. Sankara didn't go because obviously we all know Sankara was a socialist. So I want to end by saying sometimes being something else before you're African can also be a downside for us Africans. I know that he was the seed from which the multiple seeds should grow, but I can't help thinking, since I had he gone to his village and they performed whatever needed to perform, because this is a Muslim guy telling him just disappear, be at your village. Imagine had he gone, maybe we would have a different history. But also, yeah, the emphasis for me there is, can we be first African and then everything else should follow, and not be something else first and then African. And I'm not saying that's what Sankara was, but I know that if you're a socialist, you don't really believe in African tradition and African spirituality. So yeah, that saddened me when I heard it. And I think as a parting shot, Nsigi, I want to say what Nduku said. I'm calling us out as voters. My husband normally says we get the leaders we deserve. You could not have had Ramaphosa as the president. Ramaphosa has never declared himself a Pan-African or an Afrocentrist. So how are we demanding Afrocentric and Pan-African policies and laws from a man who's never declared that that's what he is? Ruto never did. All these people never did. So we put the wrong people in power, but we expect ethical policies and laws, and we expect them to put Africa first. That's not what they campaigned on. They never said that's what they are. So I think we also need to defocus on leaders and just look at our own actions also. Who do we vote for? Who do we define as a leader? We want leaders who during elections allow money to fly in black bags, and they bribe us and pay us and buy us cars and drive the latest Mercedes Benz and throw money at will, and those are the people we define as leaders. We don't want poor leaders who are ethical. So we are equally to blame. We are in the equation that's putting Africa where it is right now. Thank you, Ntseki.
Duku, our last comment for the evening.
Like I said in on the broadcast on Sunday, we have to move differently. Until we make the oppressor shiver at the thought of doing anything wrong to us, this will not stop. until we make them fear so much the thought of doing, even embarrassing a Black person just with words. Until then, until we give them a reason to not do harm to us, it will not stop. And you go figure out what that means. But we can't be going to the UN. I got yet another petition that we need to sign to send Ruto to the UN, to the whatever that court is called. Y'all, come on, stop wasting my time. Okay, here, I'm going to put an announcement, a public broadcast to all Africans. Do not send any petition to Nduku to go to any Western court. Just assume that she will not sign it. Just assume that. I am sorry, I will not do that. If it's something wrong, that's okay, but that's a burden I'm willing to take. You can all criticize me for it, but it's a choice I'm making. We who seek liberation cannot go to our oppressor to seek it. We cannot go to their courts, the laws that they've put in place that ensure our oppression, to seek retribution. Like cognitive dissonance, you all suffer from it.
Thank you so much. Thank you to the panel as usual. Guys, please go check out the Emerging Alkebulan on YouTube. Go check out Nduku's channel, Kumbukeni. And remember that Mamkanyi's book is being published and coming out soon. So keep your eyes out on Sahel Tuesdays so that you know when it's time to support. Thank you so much for liking, sharing, and subscribing. Most of you are watching from my Twitter account. Please, can you go to YouTube and subscribe to Moya Podcast, rather? Thank you so much. And we'll see you guys next week, Tuesdays, for Sahel Tuesdays again. Thank you to the panel.
Guys, we